Swine Before Pearls podcast with Joel and Trent.
Hey, yo! Welcome to Swine Before Pearls. We have our producer on today. Would you look at that?
Look, it's producer Steven. He
Yeah.
crawled out of his cave once in a millennia.
So the great thing is the bullying that we normally do to Steven before the podcast now gets to happen on the podcast.
I'm looking forward to it.
Bully
Yeah.
Steven.
Bully
Everybody write
Steven.
hashtag Bully Steven in the chat.
Yeah, hashtag bully Steven.
We'll make a t-shirt out of it
All
when
right.
we're done.
And today we're bullying Steven about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. Lame.
Well, okay, fine.
Don't take me seriously. Just do your thing.
We're gonna go with this. All right. So, if you don't know the format, we talk about best things ever.
Yes.
Yes,
That
sir.
might be the best worst things ever. That might be the best things ever.
But right now we're doing everybody's favorite things, and now we're doing Steven's favorite things.
Yeah, it's time for some guest time. So, the offering with which I've brought to you two fine gentlemen today is Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Indiana Jones' first movie. So, little bit of something to. Give me 1 second. I have to do double duty because I'm doing producer duty and guest duty. 1 second.
All right, I'll talk about
So
Indiana Jones.
let me say something
Oh,
real
okay,
quick. that I
Joel.
just thought
Oh,
of.
we're descending into
I
chaos
was
already.
in a Walmart when I was like 8, and they had this bookshelf. They used to sell books at Walmart. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
But they had a bookshelf, and on the bookshelf was a novel, and it said Indiana Jones and the Dinosaur Egg. And it looked like the raddest thing ever, and I never read it. I really want to know what's in there now. It's just him holding a dinosaur egg.
You know, we're adults
Dinosaur
now. We
egg.
could attain that
Should
book.
that be our next book review?
Yes, sir.
Indiana Jones
The
and
dinosaur egg.
It's
That's
not
probably
like,
the best book.
it's not like the forbidden dinosaur. It's just the dinosaur egg.
All right. So
So, a couple of things too. I've got notes
Oh,
because
he's got
I
a
am
notebook.
the type that does the note taking. So, yeah. So a couple of things to know about why I chose this movie is to understand why this resonates with me so much. I want to talk about what I think is the perfect movie, in my opinion, which is, it can only exist as a movie. It's gotta be beautiful, but it's gotta serve the story. So no gratuitous, like, shots that everybody really eyes in on, but it doesn't serve the story. Executes on what it intends to do. There can't be any fat or wasted time, and most of the time, show don't tell. So don't have a whole ton of expository stuff. So for me, Indiana Jones fits that. I think Indiana Jones is better than Star Wars.
ooh.
Do you want an A+ on that paper, Professor?
Yes, I want an
do.
A+ on that paper.
You know, there was a time when I thought that Indiana Jones was better than Star Wars because it was the first movie I ever saw with blood.
Because I was
And I was
a
like,
baby.
I feel like a bad boy now for watching these movies.
So I will clarify my inflammatory statement by saying Indiana Jones is better than Star Wars by saying I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is a better movie than any of the Star Wars films.
You know what I think? I think Indiana Jones is better than Star Wars because Indiana Jones doesn't like have fans. If you think about it, you never see a guy just wearing like an Indiana Jones t-shirt
Oh,
or
no, that's
anything
true.
like that, or just like a ton of Indiana Jones. Like every now and again, you got a bullwhip and a hat, but it's always like some cool hipster who like plays the banjo, you know, and he's like, "This is my Indiana Jones hat," and then he talks to you about IPAs. So I agree. I think Star Wars sucks. And I think Indiana Jones is a superior product, especially the fourth one.
I think for me, Star Wars, when watching the two, and especially thinking about how I reacted to it as a child, Star Wars is the world that I wanted to live in. Indiana Jones made me want to start making home movies and start doing videography and stuff, because I think with the medium of film, Star Wars Episode 4 notoriously was saved in the edit. So if you go back and you read all kind of the post-mortem of Star Wars Episode 4, the issue is Lucas brought it to Spielberg and a couple of other people and showed the first cut of Star Wars, and they said it was garbage and needed to get re-edited. So Lucas, going into the first Star Wars, didn't have a plan for what the movie needed to look like. I think Indiana Jones is the height of Lucas writing everything and Spielberg directing everything, and it takes all of their strengths of what they're both best at, and it hides and completely removes every single one of their weaknesses. And I think it's just a great film for being a film's sake. I really personally enjoy it. I think the cinematography is great. I think the storytelling is great. It has something that I really enjoy, which is I like movies that don't have character development.
That's an interesting.
It's an interesting take.
Good point.
But Indiana Jones does not have any character development, and I think it's a nice solve against what a lot of movies do nowadays, which is you have to have a character have growth. You have to have a character go through a realization about themselves, right? You can't just have a story for story's sakes. And so what I like about Indiana Jones, and I think also with Back to the Future as well, which is directed by Robert Zemeckis, who incidentally happens to be a Spielberg protege, as well as Jurassic Park has this too, where you don't have characters realizing something about themselves, or at least primary characters don't come to this, to borrow Joel's phrase, existential realization about who they are as a person and become a better person because of that.
I think the
Indiana
T-Rex
Jones does not have any of that, and I like that as a contrast to a lot of what you get in movies nowadays.
I think the T-Rex had a big realization about himself. And I also think the German that went into the airplane propeller also had a realization about himself. I would say being dead is character development.
That's true. Wait, wait, where's the? Are you just trolling us with Jurassic Park T-Rex?
Well, he was just saying in a lot of the Spielberg movies.
Oh yeah.
That the characters, I think the T-Rex had some development because the T-Rex starts out as the underdog, and then at the end of the movie, he's like roaring, he's
giant,
and he's there, and he's the king of everything. Do you like how much work Steven put in for this very
I did put a lot of,
and how much of that just went over my head?
Yeah.
So what do you like about this movie, Joel? This is kind of a classic from your childhood.
Yeah. So what I like about Indiana Jones, I think it all speaks for itself in the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just a man in a time period who's on an adventure, and that's all it is. It's just a good adventure. It doesn't have to, it's not preaching at you anything. It's not trying to tell you anything. It's just like, here's this dude, and he's in the jungle, and he's just a cool dude, and he's an action hero, and and sometimes he's not like the epitome of like a hero, but he's just a dude, and he's doing his thing. And I always like that aspect of it, and I like that I don't know, I feel like you couldn't make that movie in the modern time with that time period. It's like so distinctive for this like early Americana, era where things are kind of moving into the future, but they're still old, and the Germans are the bad guys, and there's still like these native tribes, and everything is so like rural. It's just like it feels like something I want to do.
And that's one of the things, like, in terms of being a movie of its time, like with digital cameras and digital editing software, one of the things that I'm struck in terms of the making of the film is that it's a Spielberg hallmark to linger on wide shots for a long time. And he's been mocked about it because some of his wide shots and one takes are very gratuitous. There are one takes in this movie that you just don't realize are one takes because they're either hidden in a cut or it really serves the story very well, because you have to go on an actual film strip and actually splice everything. So you can't cheat with a bunch of cuts. So there's part of that filmmaking, like just the pure technical filmmaking aspect that I like. There's just the stunts. I think it's Hollywood stunts, like pure classic, like busted, Keaton school of stunts. That it's just practical, and it's not anything like super fancy. Yeah, it's the pure stuff. It's
Pure
the good stuff.
Hollywood.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, Indiana Jones also gave me some inspiration for making home videos.
Yeah.
But I remember George Lucas said in an interview, he said, we really just wanted to shoot this like rough and dirty, just like get it done as quickly as possible. And my takeaway from that was I can be as lazy as I want to while making these home films.
The first 20 minutes of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark is obviously one of the most iconic scenes ever, but it is perfect. It is like perfectness on film, because the boulder and the traps going in and going out of the trap room, like you have that, and I'm a sucker for this, but having sets and fights and action scenes that have a sense of space, like you saw him go in and you saw him go out, and it's all connected and cohesive, and you're not lost as to where Indy is in the cave. Like it's just, and it just speaks to you on a level, being like, this is really cool. How did they make that? I wonder how they made that. And you hear these interviews about it being rough and dirty, but it was rough and dirty with a massive plan ahead of time. Like they planned everything down, and it shows in the making of this movie.
Rough and Dirty was my nickname in high school.
All right, so Steven, I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you think that Indiana Jones is actually not necessarily doing something morally right in the first 20 minutes of the movie? Because it's never explicitly stated, but it kind of seems like he's stealing that idol from the native people, and that's why the other dude.
I don't think they know how to properly appreciate it, though. I think you need it in a museum in New York for people to come and speculate on it, for them to be properly appreciated.
I like that ambiguity. I think they hint at it with that conversation with Belloc in the bazaar, where Belloc basically says to Indy, you and I are two sides of the same coin. Like, I'm doing this for somebody else. You're doing this for the lofty nature of it belongs in a museum, right? But we still are using similar-ish methods to get at to what we want, and to take these artifacts out of their long eternal slumber, whether somebody's guarding it or not, and bring it to somewhere else. So I don't necessarily think that they deal with that. I think you take that at face value for what it is. Like, Indiana Jones is at time a grave robber, right? Is a glorified grave robber, but the movie doesn't pretend that it's anything, that he's anything other than that.
I think the 40s were just morally ambiguous. You know, it was the 40s. You know, you give your baby a cigarette, you know, it's good for your health. You know, you go fight a war somewhere. You don't know what these people do. You just do it. It's the 40s.
It is the 40s.
Enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
That's what I like about it. I like the moral ambiguity. I like that, you know, who knows if people are doing the right thing. You know, who knows if it's a good thing to have the lost ark, the ark of the covenant.
Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
And I think the irony of it all is the spoilers if you haven't seen this very, very old movie, and shame on you if you haven't seen it already. But his hope is ultimately Indy's intention is for this to get shared by the world and for it to go into museum. And the huge joke, because I think you can get away with the joke because there's no character development, so you don't cheapen any character development, is that this Ark of the Covenant lands inside of a government warehouse with a nondescript number identification that gets lumped in with a pile of all these other things. So I really think that it doesn't have to go and have to breach that territory. That is not why you watch Indiana Jones. And I think if that were to be added back in, I think that just muddies everything up.
And in the fourth movie, the Ark of the Covenant
Well,
makes a return as a giant magnet.
Don't get me started about that
As a
stupid
giant
fourth movie.
magnet.
That's-
I like that movie. I think it's a good movie.
That's the best movie.
I
in
like
the series,
the
actually.
CG aliens, Shia LaBeouf, and monkeys.
I like the ants.
If you like schlock,
that
yeah.
eat people alive. That kind of hits different.
So let's talk about underrated characters in this film. What's the name of the guy who drives the plane?
Oh,
Jock?
Jock. I think Jock is the best character in this whole film. I really do.
That's because he's literally you.
I think he's just a swell guy. Here's why Jock is the best Indiana Jones character. He's in the movie for 10, 15 seconds. All right. And first of all, he's pilot. That's sweet. And he's fishing. He's fishing during the middle. It's just so funny to think they're doing this whole chase and this great heist. And Jock's just out there fishing. He's just waiting. And he's got a snake in the plane. I think that's so funny. He's just a great character. I don't know anything about him besides that. I had his Lego figure though, and I was pretty stoked about
Good
that.
Lego figure.
Great Lego figure. That was a great Lego set. But Jock is great. And Indy's kind of a B word for being afraid of snakes.
Oh, what was his? In the third movie, he has like a traumatic backstory with snakes. That's why he gets upset.
Yeah, his dad was shot by a snake.
And
And then you see like the pearls fall off, like in
I don't know. It's
the gun's like right under the pearls. There's a
getting
little
out of the
snake.
theater. Drop all your weapons.
everything after that is representative of what Lucas likes to do, which is nitpick his original story and add and like back add everything back into it to try to have every little plot point that makes sense. And it's honestly, for me as somebody who loves movies, it's okay if not everything is explained. You don't have to show why Indiana Jones is afraid of snakes. In fact, showing the reason that he's afraid of snakes makes it infinitely more stupid to me. Right? As soon as you actualize that abstract concept of this is why he's afraid of snakes, it becomes something it goes from being mysterious to being a gag.
Yeah.
And I don't like gags for the sake of gags.
And I think the snake with the gun was a little unrealistic.
The snake with the gun is unrealistic.
That's what's gonna happen if they do like the Chris Pratt reboot, though. It's like
Oh, gosh.
the snake is gonna hold up his family for ransom, and then we're gonna have this big CGI scene. But here's another thing I thought when I was watching it. This whole just leave this be. Just leave this be.
I'm with
Just leave this be. Stop. Don't make any more of this. I like that for those 3 movies. There's just this each volume of an adventure with a different chick. You know, you don't need the same chick. It's like here's this completely other one. It's like, you know, I think Ravenwood is great because she's just kind of there, and then she's just gone, and you don't really hear much about her until like that stupid 4th movie where it's like, oh well, they were married and they had fun and then Shia LaBeouf.
I remember
He's got a cold.
as a kid, I was pretty appalled that Indiana Jones ran off with multiple
That
women.
he wasn't a one woman guy.
Yeah,
He's not
appalling.
a monogamist.
He's literally like running around the world with a bullwhip. You expect him to stick around with one?
This to me is like the perfect Harrison Ford movie. Like you can tell at the end of Star Wars that Harrison Ford was begging
Wants to
each
die.
writer to put Han Solo out of his misery. Like you could be like, I want to offer up this character that I've started to loathe, because he becomes a one-note gag character, and he really likes doing that first effort, playing a character. He likes doing something with a little bit of swag, a little bit of seriousness, like this Decker from Blade Runner, Dr. Richard Kimball for The Fugitive, which is a great underrated movie if you haven't seen it.
I didn't kill my wife.
I don't care.
I don't care.
And he likes this type of role, and I think this is the role that he shines in, rather than playing Han Solo because he has to play Han Solo.
It's great. Harrison Ford is great in this. He's young. He's sexy. He's just doing his thing. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Don't touch it.
No,
Don't ruin
don't touch
this.
it.
I don't want to see Chris Pratt do this. I like Chris Pratt. I think
I
he's
love
a fine,
Chris Pratt.
I think he's a fine guy.
Is that an actual rumor?
That's what's been floating around.
That's been a rumor for
a while.
hot minute.
But it's
for a
like,
while.
just leave this alone.
Yeah.
Just it's good. It's good. You don't need to repaint the Mona Lisa.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's not. I mean, I say it's not like it's aged poorly. It's not like
No, it's aged incredibly well.
Like
everything is aged well except for that little bit about Marion.
There's a couple things that haven't aged well. There's a couple of like women's roles, things that wouldn't fly today, and the only other two things is that there are two CGI scenes. Once when they open the tomb to where the Ark of the Covenant is, and the other one is when it shows the Ark of the Covenant lid flying off, and you can like tell that it's green screen, and it's like early bad green screen. Everything else outside of those things is just phenomenal, and it's just because those elements didn't age well. Not because they messed up on their intent and botched the execution.
Yeah, and even still, like when I'm watching a movie, I'm not like, oh, this looks so
sucks.
bad. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like doesn't look perfect,
Right.
but I mean, I'm an adult. I can emotionally handle if not everything looks exactly like I think it should.
It's not gonna ruin my enjoyment. Something I wanted to talk about real quick was the car chase scene. Where Indiana Jones, right after they take away the Ark, he gets on a horse and pursues. Let me just say, I think it's really difficult to pull off like good car chase.
Yeah.
A good fast moving car chase. There's like gets to like each kind of boy, and there's like a different element, different style of fighting. One where he's falling on the front of the truck, and then he goes under, pulls his out, gets back on, and then he makes the guy do the same exact thing. And it's like that's interesting. That's interesting to watch, and that's something. And I like cars. I'm a dude, but I don't like these long, drawn out like action car chase. Like this one had like spirit, and it was fun to watch, and it looked and great stunts.
Because I think one of the things that I really love about this movie, and I looked at it in every single fight scene, or every single action scene, there's this element of space. So you have, if you close your eyes and you were to imagine the scene happening, you have an image of where everything is in space. You can understand that there is a line of trucks going, and that he's got to start from this truck to that truck. Yeah. It's a mini story inside of an action and fight scene. And to me, like I was doing that same comparison with like the Fast and Furious movies, which is like, they have to do things that keep upping themselves in terms of stunts, and there's a lot of spectacular stuff that they do. There's a lot of cool stuff that they do. But to me, this is infinitely more interesting because it's not haha, cars go burr, because we have all these car licenses, right, that we have to show off, and because we've got to fill time. It really is, we have a purpose, we have a goal, we're going to tell a story from how he gets from the back of the caravan to the front of the caravan, how he figures out how to get out of this mess in the bazaar, how to escape the boulder in the temple, how to get through the bar fight in Nepal. Like all of these things, it really does a great job of having fights that serve to tell a story.
Yeah. It really feels like a movie that's kind of driven by set pieces. I'm in the mood to do a third Doom comparison, but like, and this might alienate some viewers, but I don't care.
It's just my dad watching.
Yeah, but
hi, Dad.
Like in Doom, it kind of presents itself as like this
video game or movie.
Yeah, a video game.
Okay.
So it presents itself as like this game where you're traversing the landscape, but when you get down to the meat and bones of it, it's about the arenas.
Yeah.
And you're just, there's a little bit of downtime between the arenas, but It's battle arena to battle arena.
Yeah.
That's what this movie's kind of like.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to go from one set piece to another, and we have a healthy amount of connective tissue.
Yeah.
But we're going from one little adventure to another.
And you know what I really like about this movie is there's not a lot of just like stop and talk and explain. Like there's like bits and bobbles. You know, there's the scene where he first gets to Cairo and he's, you know, talking to John Rhys Davies about stuff. You know, there's a couple slow scenes, but it's not like it eats up all this time and it's like, okay, now we're going to sit here and explain for 10 minutes what is going on. It's just like, oh, Indiana Jones gets back. He's a teacher. Chicks think he's hot. That's really cool. Oh, these government dudes are here. They want you to help find this Hebrew object. I'm going to go find it. Boom. He's getting his bags packed. Oh, is this going to go good? Yeah, here's some whiskey. Here's my gun. Airplane. Even like the scenes, and I know this has probably been said before, but even the scenes with air travel, they're just nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch. It's like, here's the point on the map that we're going, and it's like, it's not this. And meanwhile, on the plane, he was asleep for 5 minutes, and a stewardess forgot to give him his peanuts.
And that goes to,
and he said, "Ah ha ha."
And that goes to the movie that I made before when we first set the table about what I think to be a perfect movie is the fact that there is little to no exposition, but only where they need it, and also little to no fat. Like the storytelling and everything, each scene has a purpose, and you're never bored with each scene. And even just like the fight, again, I keep going back to the fights because they're just incredible. The fight in the bazaar. After rewatching that again, what I noticed is there's no dialogue in there. Like the whole story is conveyed just through musical cues, some grunts and pictures, right? You understand what's going on just through the medium of what you're seeing. And I think that to me is really cool and why this is so special.
Steven, I think you're forgetting part of the bizarre scene where one of the men that Indy is fighting comes up to him and says, "Indiana Jones, it's me, your father. I'm finally here."
Indiana Jones. And there's that other scene where the guy poops his pants and he says, "Indiana Jones."
Listen, I'm not
aggressively.
That is a
craps his pants.
I'm not going to talk about the diarrhea scene. That's been documented here and there.
One more part about the exposition. I like that the person who's giving exposition in a lot of the Indiana Jones movies are just like guys like Sean Connery and like John Rhys Davies, like guys with like voices that you just love to listen to, where it's like, well, the Nazis came and they stole this painting. Or then you got like that Gimli kind of dwarf looking dude, and he's just like, "Oh ho ho, I'm this big jolly dude from Cairo. Oh, the Jews have this magic box and it's gonna kill everybody, and don't eat that prune because it killed that monkey." You know, it's great. It's like, yeah, I get it. I can sit through that. You know? Don't eat the prune. The monkey poisoned it. The monkey.
It just and on top of all of this, just like on top of everything that we've said already, like this movie is just straight up iconic. Like every moment, boulder rolling, bizarre chase, guy getting shredded by the helicopter. Don't look. It belongs in a museum, airplane, not helicopter.
Helicopter.
Airplane.
You watched this movie
Yes,
like
I did.
a bunch.
I
You called it a helicopter.
Well, I said I watched it. I didn't say that I fixed my speech impediments.
I watched it once.
But there's so much in this movie that has just influenced a lot of not just the memes, but just how people look at movies and how people think of adventure stuff. And it's a shame that this style of movie just doesn't exist all that much anymore, which is because I enjoy these types of adventures. I think there's a role for these types of adventures, and not everything has to be connected together.
I don't think Marion Ravenwood was ever drinking real alcohol.
What? You don't think that?
I don't think she was ever drunk.
Or like
No, of
canonically, or the actress?
Both.
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 It's maple syrup and some red food
I
dye.
think it was fake. Here's the thing. She went through that whole drinking contest with the Nepalese dude, and she walked away fine.
And
Now,
she shot a dude after.
And she shot a dude after. Listen, I've swilled a few bottles in my time, and I can tell you that would kill a horse. And then she pretends. She shows when she tries to get Belloc drunk, she was faking it. She doesn't have a high tolerance. She has a little cheek pocket where she keeps it all and doesn't actually drink it. If Marion Ravenwood was drunk, I don't think we saw it.
No.
But isn't that kind of the point? Is that like, you know, she's a bad girl. She drinks.
She drinks. I think you know what I love about Indiana Jones is like I like that all of the female counterparts, you could kind of rate them from screamiest. You know what I mean?
I thought you said a different word in my mind.
Well, yeah, you could
you.
probably also rate that, and Elsa wins that cake. But you know, like Billy.
Oh, Billy
screams a lot, and it's just because George Lucas was doing coke, and he was like, you know what?
Billy.
I met this chick at a bar. She's hot. I think she should be in this movie. And that is like the perfect Hollywood casting story ever.
Does the wonderfulness of Short Round outweigh the stupidness of? Short Round's had a good career afterward. He was just in Everywhere All at Once, which was kind of a critical darling that came out the last year or so.
I think I'm surprised Short Round didn't get the same treatment as the Ewoks. I feel like Lucas nerds don't like small things making noises.
But the thing is, like, I think it has to do with the thing we were talking about earlier, where it's like there's not Indiana Jones fans walking around.
Yeah, and that's why it's great. That's why it's great.
All of them work in props and is Adam Savage.
That's the thing. That's the thing is I feel like the real Indiana Jones fans are like cool nerds that actually go on to like do things.
They're Indiana Jones enjoyers.
They're the average Indiana Jones enjoyers, and then you got like brainless Star Wars fans who's like ha 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 Babu freak. And, you know, Trent and I fall in that category.
We're brainlets.
Sure, we're brainlets. We don't have two to rub together.
But you look at like people like Homestar Runner, right?
Yeah.
They had this whole skit of Dangeresque, which is a giant spoof on all of the kids everywhere picking up their parents' handheld recorders and making a spoof of Indiana Jones, and it's great. And that influenced them. You know, Chris Stuckman on YouTube as well. Same thing. That's the one movie that he comes back to and says, "This is the movie that inspired me to start making movies." And I think there is that difference of, again, you want to be a part of the universe of Star Wars. You want to play and pretend in that universe. You want to have a lightsaber. You want to be a Jedi.
I want to be an Imperial bureaucrat.
But what Indiana Jones ends up doing
I want to push paperwork.
is it allows you to dream and be like, I can make this movie and I want to try to make this movie.
You know what's really cool is like, I feel like I like the archaeology aspect of it. When I was a kid, I really wanted to like dig up dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And the thing was, I like the part of Indiana Jones that goes and actually does the stuff. I don't like the actual like professor part. And that was always disappointing to me as a kid, that archaeology or paleontology, I thought you were going to be fighting robbers off from like dinosaur bones, but really you're doing like 95% BS work and then maybe like 5% field work. You're like, we went to Greece and we found a pot. You know?
It's archaeology is a lot more Ross Geller than it is Indiana Jones.
Sucks. It's like my geology professor in college. It was like, so are you like climbing mountains and finding like rare geodes? He's like, actually, I was documenting the different type of saltine. Yeah. Benzonite.
So what speaks to you more, Joel? Does Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones speak to you more in terms of, because it's both kind of that digging up lost history and kind of unleashing it on the world to unexpected consequences?
I think Indiana Jones speaks to me more because there's the variety aspect.
Because they're going to so many different places.
Yeah, and that's why I fell in love with Star Wars as a kid too. I like when movies show like And I'm the same way with like video games, like open world video games and stuff. I like when you can go to all these different lands. Same thing with Stars. I like when, Stars Episode 3, where it's like, oh, we're on Mustafar, and then we're on Kashyyyk, and there's all these like cool different, and they've all got their own little thing, and that's what I like about the Indiana Jones movies too. Except maybe the second one, there's less travel in the second one, but in the third one, it's like we're in Italy and we're in these catacombs, and now we're here and we're at this castle in Switzerland and we're sneaking across the German border, and I like that that fast pace of like we're going to all these places and it's an adventure. I like Jurassic Park, but it's not like, oh, there's a variety in the dinosaurs trying to kill you, but it's not like, okay, now we're in the cold climate. You know what's funny? I really liked Zootopia, because Zootopia did that really well, where all the different furries live in a different biome.
Hey,
you like that world building aspect.
Dude, I freaking love Zootopia. I'm not even kidding. I used to watch it drunk.
But that makes sense, because guess what? The mastermind behind Star Wars wrote Indiana Jones, and George Lucas. I think that's the biggest strength of what George Lucas does, is he does all of these world building and set pieces stuff really, really well. When he gets to like exposition, and he tends to get a little bit too far up his own self to talk about specific things, and then you get into exposition, and then the world building's like, just kill me already.
What's your best George Lucas impression?
So anyway, I was thinking of adding this funny reptile character with a racist accent.
Oh, God.
So I'm somewhere in Reno, and I'm just doing this big bag of Coke, and this lady walks by next to me, and she says, "You look famous and Jewish," and he says, "Yeah, I'm George Lucas. Would you like to be in the next Indiana Jones film?" So I wrote my number down on a cocktail napkin. Like 3 dates later, she said yes.
Wait a minute, I'm pretty sure I'm not Jewish.
No,
just Steven Spielberg.
I'm Bohemian.
Guess what?
You can have a purple light.
Russell Wilson, the new quarterback for the Denver Broncos, is going to be, mark my words, he's going to be in the new Indiana Jones.
Why is
because George Lucas's current wife, I think, now is like the president of football operations at the Denver Broncos.
Oh,
really?
So there's gonna be some cross pollination.
Georgie,
there.
pull up,
yeah,
man!
No, Russell Wilson.
Lucas.
Russell Wilson had a photo where he was sitting with George Lucas and talking about stuff.
George Lucas, come on the podcast.
But here's the thing, Russell Wilson, I love you, man. I hope you win some football games. But you seem like a normie. You seem like a big Star Wars guy.
Yeah.
I don't think you can grasp the complexities of what it's like to be on a helium blimp with Sean Connery while Nazis are chasing you. You're more of a Rey Skywalker has big lightsaber action guy. That's okay. We still love you, but I don't think Indiana Jones is going to be your spot. Unless he became Indiana Jones and he was black. Yes, that's what's going to happen. Why not? They're going to call him like Kentucky Jim.
This is going down a weird train.
I'm just telling you what the future is going to happen.
Trent, you've been out of the loop on some of these things, but what are some of the things that you gravitate towards? And do you agree with my assertion that it's a classical masterpiece?
I don't know. There's not much brain that goes in for me for this movie, to be honest. This will always be just like a special childhood memory for me, where it was the first movie I ever saw with blood in it, and so it was like I feel edgy for watching this, and I feel unique and different. And so for a little bit, I liked it better than Star Wars, and I dressed up as Indiana Jones for Halloween, and I homemade the costume, and I got a whip and everything, and I was just so cool. And I liked the fourth movie because I was a 10-year-old dingus.
My brother in Christ, do you still have that costume or photos of you wearing that costume kicking around?
I think I might have photos of me in the costume.
Okay,
you better dig that up.
Funny stories about Indiana Jones in childhood. I had an Indiana Jones themed birthday, and I didn't have birthday parties growing up because my family hates.
Yeah,
other
my
people.
my family hates
But,
other people, so no birthday
But
parties
we
for
did
us.
a treasure hunt, and I remember my end present was under the grill, and I had a bag with Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull stuff on, and I was so stoked, and I thought that crystal skull just looked tasty as hell. I wanted to just take a bite out of it. I bet it was like blue raspberry flavored. I loved it. I was like probably around your age, Trent, and it was just a great thing.
Well, yeah. So Joel, we've always been around each other's age.
Well, yeah, but you know, but I bet we were having this awakening at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Awakening at the same time.
We've shared some phases together.
Underrated Legos. Indiana Jones Lego
Ooh.
sets were
No. Johnny Thunder, the precursor before they got the
Yes,
license. The
yes.
Johnny Thunder Lego sets are
but
the
the
best
license,
Lego sets.
but the license was pretty dang cool too.
It's the license.
Yeah,
I had the boulder roll.
Yeah, I had. I don't remember what I had, but I loved my Indiana Jones figure. I cared more about the Lego figures, like the
Oh yeah,
little
doesn't
characters,
everybody?
than the actual Lego.
That's what you separate. You
Some-
don't sort the rest of everything, but you keep the figure separate.
Some guys are
Sure, unless
really
you're a
into
heathen.
Best
building.
Lego races.
Like I think Fred was more of a builder. Our buddy Fred.
Yeah.
But me, I was all about the minifigures. I would just make stories with them, and then I would have these like abominations of creations that were just like
Get in the
haphazardly
starship, and
thrown
it's like
together.
5 blocks stacked on each other. I didn't have time to do a good job building it. Oh man, but yeah, Indiana Jones, man, it's
Any other last thoughts?
it's a good film, dude, and you know what? I have to say a lot of the adventuring that I've done in my life is because of that. And recently, a few years ago, I was in Vietnam and I was in a jungle, and I had this moment where I thought, I'm Indiana Jones. And I thought that was so cool. And I'll never forget that. And I like, you know what? The title. Just the way the title looks, the graphic.
Yeah, the
It's
graphic.
a good,
oh, yeah,
you can't replicate. It's a good looking
it's a good
deal.
graphic.
You will never be as cool as that graphic.
I wish I could have that like tattooed on my forehead. It looks so cool.
Wait, didn't you had like this thing where why did you call yourself Colorado Joel? What was
Oh,
that
God.
related to?
Oh no,
Dude, yeah,
that's
that just shows,
That's a deep memory
that
right
just shows
there.
what a fan I am. Well, I used to call myself. I remember this. I used to walk around church, and that was back when church was weird, man. Church was a trip, and we were a bunch of little nerds, and we would like role playing at church. Not like that role playing, like good role playing for youngsters. But everyone had like their thing that they were trying to be, and I was Colorado Joel, and that was like my spin-off of Indiana Jones. And he's like Indiana Jones, but he's just like he lives in the mountains of Colorado, drinks IPAs, and that was my deal.
Yeah, that's the image you were trying to project as a 12-year-old is a guy who lives in the mountains and drinks IPAs.
And didn't I become that?
True.
So it worked. But I mean, yeah, man, that was deep core memory unlocked. But yeah, I really wanted that to be my life. I remember I had a shirt that glowed in the dark and it was blue and it had a rattlesnake. And I would wear it to the museum and I would talk to the paleontologist and I had my hat. It wasn't like a real like fedora or anything, but it was just like a kind of like a hat deal. And I would talk to the guy about like digging for dinosaurs and stuff. And I just wanted to be a part of that. And I wanted to be super smart. And yeah, so it's an influential deal. And then I brought dinosaur bones to the museum. And the guy said, those are chicken bones. And he crushed my dreams. And I hate him. And screw that guy. And guess what? When I was working at the museum 2 years ago and I was all alone in the dinosaur museum exhibit, I touched the T-Rex skeleton. Nobody was there to stop me, and I put my paws on it. So, heck off, buddy. I hope it falls apart and you get blamed for it.
We're bringing out some deep-seated trauma here on Pig Show again.
Well, Steven, thank you for bringing this. Thank you. You've done a lot of work
Yes.
You're
big
very
word.
smart. I think you're too smart for
You're
this
too
podcast.
smart for us.
I'd love to
at
do
least-
I'd love to do like a more structured breakdown by myself of why
at
I
least-
think this movie is so great.
No, dude, and that's great, and more power to you. But this is just dummy
Yeah,
boys.
go to Smart Person
Thank you.
Podcast.
Go to smart. We've tried to be introspective.
I'll go back over to the producer bench where I rightfully belong. I
Yeah,
don't belong
yeah.
over
go
here.
back in your cave.
That's where the smart boys belong.
Steven's like Michael Bublé on Christmas. He crawls out of his cave once a year.
But I appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity to talk about this movie that ultimately, like, I sat down and I thought about like what is my favorite movie, and there's a lot of movies that I like. I like the Lego Movie because of what it does for animation. I like Guardians of the Galaxy because to me that's kind of my childhood. That's my childhood movie because I actually was one of the few people that read Guardians of the Galaxies before it was cool. So did Joel.
Yeah,
Wait, you read
dude,
Guardians of
Yeah.
the
Oh
Galaxy before it
yeah.
was
Oh
cool?
yeah.
I've been a Marvel fan way longer
Oh, yeah.
than anybody else, and to a point where it pisses me off, and I don't like Marvel.
It's starting to get annoying.
Dude, I was reading.
My childhood
I
is
was
getting
reading
bastardized
Moon Knight.
before
I
my
was
eyes.
reading Moon Knight when I was 10 years old. I made my own Moon
Yeah.
Knight costume.
Wow, you're
You
so
couldn't
cool.
even spell Moon Knight.
Yeah.
And guess what? I hate it now. And I hate it all because people like it and I hate it. And I want things that nobody else likes. And I hate all of you for liking the things that I like. It's not cool anymore.
Yeah, we need to go back to the days when nerds were severely bullied so
Yes!
that Joel could be
Let's
happy.
bully nerds again.
But all that being said,
Oh,
this
you like Star Trek? That's cute and sexy. No,
Just
you
gonna
should be
interrupt
appalled
you
at my
here.
figure. You shouldn't say, haha, that's cute. You made your own Star Trek uniform? No, it's not cute. Bully me. Please, bully these people.
Oh,
This is
but I appreciate you. This is the movie that I ended up settling on after thinking about what is my favorite, and this ended up coming up to the top of my list. Is if I had to pick one movie to be on a desert island with, I think this is it for me. So I appreciate you guys
Bro,
letting me come on and talk
I
and
was on
interrupting me.
If I was on a
Appreciate
desert
it.
island, man, I'd just bring a naughty movie. Why would you
Well,
bring Indiana Jones, dude? It's the last thing you're gonna watch.
Thanks for coming on
Oh,
the show.
oh, thanks so
Let's
much.
be real
I'm
here, guys.
gonna end this remotely before we go back.
What am I gonna bring? A
before we
cooking
regress.
video,
So,
a survival video?
This
Was
is about
Indiana
normal
Jones
for
gonna
our
teach
ending.
me
if you
how to
want
build a
want
fire?
more of me for whatever reason, I stream on Twitch
Steven!
at Jam Tape. YouTube is Jam Tape.
Let's blow.
I'm always
let's
here.
blow
I'm in
Steven up.
I'm in the comments
Hold on.
when I'm not producing.
Real quick, let's blow Steven up. Let's give him an uncontrollable amount of fame that will ultimately ruin him.
Yeah,
Nothing would bring me more pleasure.
it'll
We
be
definitely have that kind of
it'll be a
pull.
cold
on.
day in hell before I get to that fame.
Come on. No, thank you, Steven. You're too smart for your own good. We love you. Trent,
Yes.
you can get it.
Yes, sir.
All right. I lost
Pig show.
I lost my connection to the thing. So somebody hit the button. Somebody hit the big ol'.
Pig show.
All right.
Pig show.
No,
Pig
hit that
show.
on the left side. Hit the
show.
stream ending.
Pig show.
Scroll down.
Pig
show.
show.
Pig show.
Pig show. I'm gonna sell my feet on the internet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sell all my feet.
Just click it. Yes, there we go.
Just end it.
Bye.